I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Radu Ciorniciuc, the director of Acasă, My Home, which is a documentary. Uh, Radu, how did you come across the Enache family that's portrayed in this film?
Long story short, in 2016, we've heard that the Romanian government was about to give a protection, a very high protection status to a place that was known to be a garbage dump or an abandoned land close to the middle of the city, but abandoned and where nature took over for the last 3 decades and formed one of the most spectacular ecosystems in the country. There are hundreds of species of birds and animals and plants. Some are rare and protected in Europe. So living 2 streets away from this place that was about to become the biggest urban natural park in, in Europe, I had to kind of make something out of it. So with the screenwriter of the film, with Lina Topi, we just went there to make a reportage, just to make a short piece on how the authorities were planning to work on this place. One thing led to another. We met two of the boys of the Enache children. 400 meters from the city center of the capital, there were these two boys, half naked, with their long hairs and a funny way of talking. So we immediately became interested in, like, where do you guys come from? Like, what's your story? They took us to their father, and we were lucky enough because the father was already working with the campaigners that promoted and managed to pull off this protection status for the place. So he was their local fixer, their informal ranger. He would work with the scientists and the journalists that were writing or promoting the place. So we were just another journalistic crew coming there for a day or two and to make a piece. But after spending some time with the children, we understood that this is not the kind of story that you could make in 2 days without exoticizing or like without. It was a perfect tabloid story, which is something that we wanted to avoid. So we decided to stay a bit more. We didn't know how much time. It turned out to be 4 years in the end. But in the beginning, we just it was very clear to us that the things that we were seeing and we're experiencing with these children are too powerful to be contained or to be formalized with the instruments that we had back then, with the reporters' instruments, let's say. So we had to find a way and to find a new form to tell the story and to make justice for this family that was about to go through a hell of a dramatic experience. It was pretty clear for us that back then that they were going to be evicted. So we decided that a feature-length film, would be the best medium to tell the story in a way that's a bit more nuanced, more complex. That would show us the world through the eyes of the characters, more than expressing our judgments.
How long? So you said it was 4 years. Is that how long you actually spent shooting the film, or was that
Yes.
the total amount of time from beginning of filming to completion?
No. We the last shot of the film was shot a few weeks before premiering in Sundance. It was a baby shot, and because the baby wouldn't come, we had to wait. And that we pretty much shot from day one until very very late into post production. Actually, we edited the film for 2 years while we were also shooting, and yeah.
Did it take a lot of convincing to get the family to agree to let you film them and their experience?
No, again, I mean, we were very privileged and lucky that the father had some media education, in the sense that he met so many journalists, even from the US. There were like the journalists came and wrote about the place. So he met a lot of journalists, and he's seen himself in a lot of pieces. And in the last years, that he immediately understood when we told him that we might stick around for a while, because we don't want to make just a journalistic story about you and your family in this place. And he was obviously at first it was quite confusing for him, but it was confusing for us as well. So we were quite transparent with our process, and we had a great partner with in the father, and then in the children. We've built a good relationship, a friendship, first of all.
Is what the family is doing at the beginning, living in this, sort of this, environmental area just off of the major city, is that something that's a problem, that's like a big problem throughout Romanian cities, or are they just like an isolated incident of that?
Well, I would say it's an isolated. I mean, this incident has a lot of particular sides, particular things to it. If you're asking if the gap between the people living in poverty in the rural areas compared with the opportunities in the city, I would say there's a huge gap. Unfortunately, Romania is one of the poorest country in Europe. But I would also say that the conditions that the family, the Enache family, were living in is not something that you would necessarily see, even if you go to the poorest villages in Romania.
So, have you kept in touch with them since you since you actually premiered the film? And do you know what their situation has been like since you finished shooting?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the project is still ongoing. During filming, I think it was a year into the filming. We also started a social project where we built a platform where we mediated the services of some great psychologists and educators and doctors and the social assistants with the family, in order to help them, first of all, not end up in a horrible shelter regarding the kids, or on the streets, homeless. So that's integration, as you might know, is something that takes years, sometimes generations, especially if you come from a minority that's been abused and discriminated against, to say the least. And I'm talking about the Roma minority. So there's still people working with the family. There's still a lot of efforts involved in their integration. And I don't know, but on a positive note, the kids are. The other day they were doing online classes on Skype. They're quite computer savvy, and they own their own place right now. They have a little house and a piece of land just outside the city. Some of the boys of the Enache are still working in the park. Unfortunately, the father passed away a few months ago, and that was a shock for everyone. So right now, I'd say there's still a lot to go, especially that the father is not there anymore, and the ground is shaky for everyone in the family. I think that there's perspectives are brighter than they were when we met them, for sure.
So it's interesting that this is a Romanian film, and much has been made over the years of Romanian new wave cinema. But I was wondering how much have Romanian documentaries been a part of that? Because I've usually only heard about that with the narrative side of film, but I hadn't heard as much about with documentaries. Are Romanian documentaries a huge part of that?
They're becoming a huge part of that, that's for sure. But it's also, I mean, all over the world, the public began to watch these documentaries, and documentaries have evolved a lot in form throughout the years. And this made actually these shifts in forms actually paved the way to audiences that mm, like audiences that were into a narrative or fiction films, I guess. You have observational documentaries like Acasă right now, who, a lot of the times people ask if this is fiction. I'd say no, it's a documentary. It's just the form is not necessarily conventional for what we know a documentary is. But and I think it's the case with Romania as well. Like the Romanian cinematographers are quite connected with what's happening outside of the country, and with the tendencies, and also um, with this like struggle in finding and exploring new ways of telling a story visually in a documentary. So yeah, this year, for example, we have at least 4 or 5 titles that are traveling the world, that are gaining a lot of attention internationally, and I'm sure this is just the beginning.
Well, Radu, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best during this upcoming award season. And to all of our viewers, please like this video, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks so much, Radu.
Thank you, Charlie.